Okay, good morning everyone. This is your first instructional video for the geometry unit, which I think is what we will be doing for the majority of the remainder of the year. We might get in a little bit into algebra and possibly start working on a few things for 6th grade. But let's talk about geometry. So today's lesson is on coordinate grids or a coordinate plane, which you guys have all seen before, and it should not be super complicated. Your vocabulary words for today are coordinate plane, origin, axis, and coordinates. A coordinate plane is a grid showing the x and the y coordinates of ordered pairs, and we'll talk a little bit about those in just a second. The origin are points 0, 0, where x and y axis cross, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. And then axis is the standard direction for the measuring distance. In coordinate planes, we have the x and the y axis. Coordinates are numbers that describe a point's location. They also are called ordered pairs. So if you take a look at this coordinate plane or coordinate grid here, you see that they're made up of number lines. So the number line that goes horizontal from side to side is called the x-axis, okay? So it goes this way. And you always start with the x-axis. It's always going to be the first number in your ordered pair. So you know you're always gonna go either to the right or to the left with the first number you see. So if you have 4, 3, if your ordered pairs are 4, 3, you know you're gonna go over 4, and then and you're going to the right 4 because it's a positive number, and then you'll go up 3 because it's also a positive number. So then the number line that goes up and down or vertically is called the y-axis, okay? So a coordinate plane is a grid showing the x and the y coordinates of ordered pairs. So in this case, we have 4, 3, so we're going over 4 and up 3. And you notice that there are lines, right? So these are the number lines, and the numbers are actually on the lines. They're not in the square. You don't put your point inside the square. You put them where the actual number lines intersect or cross. So I'm going over 4, so I'm going up that line, and then up 3, and I put my ordered pair, my point for my ordered pair, 3, 4, 3, right there. So this is called an ordered pair. This is the x-axis. This is the y-axis, okay? We also call these coordinates on your coordinate grid. And so then the origin, which you also have to label on this, is the point 0, 0, where the x and y-axis cross. So if this is the x-axis and this is the y-axis, your origin is right here. It's your 0, 0. So that is your origin. It's where you're starting from, okay? So I talked a little bit about positive numbers here, okay? So now for this lesson, you're only gonna be working with positive numbers. You're only gonna be working on this side of the number line, but you notice I have arrows that continue to go down and to go to the left. That's because we also can work with negative numbers in a coordinate plane. So like this, for example, would be -1 on your x-axis. This would be -2 on your x-axis. This would be -1 on your y-axis. Now again, we're only going to be working in, we call this quadrant 1, but then this would be quadrant 2, quadrant 3, and quadrant 4. And those would be labeled as if you had like -4, -3, then you would go over 4 and over to the left 4 and down 3. But we won't be working with that, but it's always just good to know that there is something else out there that you will actually continue to learn about throughout your mathematical career. So what is the origin? The origin is 0, 0. It is where the x-axis and y-axis cross or intersect. So the axis is that actual line down here, right? Now up here, those you still count those as like coordinates, but this is the actual axis. It's the 0, 0. Explain the difference between the x-axis and the y-axis. The x-axis goes horizontally from side to side, and the y-axis goes vertically up and down. So x-axis is horizontal, from side to side, left to right, and the y-axis is vertical, up and down. All right, how do you plot points on the coordinate grid or on this graph? So when you have, let's use this ordered pair here, 4, 3. And to write an ordered pair, you always put them in parentheses. The x coordinate always comes first, then the y coordinate. And you put a comma between them. So how do you plot those points on a coordinate grid? You look at the first number, and the first ordered pair or first number is what you're going to count over on the x-axis. Okay, the second number is what you will count up or down on the y-axis. And then you also make sure that they're on the actual line. So it's where the lines intersect. So when you first learn coordinate grids, I know you learn to like put a line, like actually physically draw the line, which you can continue to do. That's totally fine. But at this point, I think visually, your eyes will work well enough to be able to just draw it up. And you can also, use your fingers to hold those places and draw your finger up or over. All right, so let's take a look at this one. Label the following ordered pairs on the coordinate grid. So we have 3, 4. We're going to go over 3. We're going to stay on that line, right? And then up to where 4 is. We're going to place our point where those two lines intersect, and we're actually going to label that point with its ordered pairs. And so I write the 3, 4, and I put them in parentheses. Now, a lot of people forget to do that, and that's really important to label your points. Now, sometimes your points might have letters next to them that you might then label that letter, and you don't need to put then the ordered pair. You can just label it with the letter. But in this case, we're going to go ahead and label it with its ordered pair. So 4, 3, so go over 4, up to 3, and where those two lines intersect, we're going to draw our point and write our ordered pair there. 2, 0. Okay, so this is something that you may not have learned before, and that's having a 0 in your ordered pairs. So in this case, this is the x and this is the y, so I'm going over 2, but then my y coordinate, or my y number, my y coordinate is 0. So I actually stay on the x-axis because I'm not moving up or down on my y-axis. So my point is actually right there. So that's 2, 0. And then this next one is 0, 2. So for 0 being your x-axis, it's right here, right? That's 0 on my x-axis. So I'm not going over left or right. I'm staying right on the y-axis because my x-coordinate is 0. And then I go up 2, and that is 0, 2. Okay, let's keep going. All right, this next one is now you have to figure out what the coordinates are for what is labeled on the grid. So you have to find the ordered pairs. So A is right here, right? So it's 4 and 2. So I'm going to write 4, 2. B is, well, it's right there. So I go over 3 and then over 6. So it's 3, 6, not 6, 3. Remember, you're always doing the x-axis first. And if you need to label those to remember, you are more than welcome to. C is, C's, where is C? C doesn't have an x-axis. It's not 1 or 2. It is, remember, this is 0. This is the origin. So C is 0 and 4. All right, this next one. Point D is 6 units away from the origin along the x-axis. So like if I were to draw it out, I didn't put one here for you because you're supposed to kind of just figure it out on your own. But if it is 6 away from the origin on the x-axis. So let's say this is 6, and 10 units away from the y-axis. So let's say this is 10, so it's right here, 6, 10, right? So go over 6, up 10. What is the ordered pair? It is 6, comma, 10. So it is 6 away from the origin on the x-axis, which means that the x ordered pair, or x coordinate is 6, and it is 10 units away from the y-axis. So it goes up 10, so that's my y coordinate. So your ordered pair is 6, 10. Which letter is 5 units from the y-axis and 9 units from the x-axis? So if it's 9 units from the x-axis, then my ordered pair is 9, and if it's 5 units away from the y-axis, it is 5. So this is x and this is y, my ordered pair is 9, 5. So let's find out where 9, 5 is. Go over 9, up 5, and it's C. So your answer is C. Okay, this last one, you have to find how many units apart these points are. Now, this is pretty simple. Sometimes kids misread this as something more difficult. You're literally just counting the number of lines that there are between the two units. And this is good this is like your pre-lesson to when you are gonna do something a little bit more complicated called slope. But this time you don't have to do anything to the numbers. You're literally just counting the spaces in between the letters. So A and B, here's A, here's B. You're literally just counting. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 units apart. Another way to do that, well, A is at 1 and B is at 6. So what's the difference between 1 and 6? 5. All right, C and D. So here's C, here's D. I'm literally just gonna count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Another 5. And another way to do that is, well, D is at 2 and C is at 7. What's the difference between 2 and 7? 5. And then E and F. So you literally just count the spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then another way to do that is, well, E is at 3 and F is at 10. So what's the difference between 3 and 10? 7. All right, so hopefully that makes sense. If you haven't already, go ahead and print this PDF out and do the work on your own. You can rewatch this video to check your work with mine, or you can just kind of draw this out on a piece of paper and do the work on your own while looking at your device. Then do your interactive notebook, 5G1. Please watch this video before you do that. All right, have a good day.